Okay, I have been wondering about this monism or unitary metaphysics, which holds that everything is one. This is basically standard materialism or physicalism. Everything is material. We are material. Our consciousness is material. This is quite paradigmatic. Nothing controversial about it. Although in philosophy everything is controversial. But why do mind and matter appear so different? Why does my own existence, the sensation I now feel in my stomach or in my back, or my awareness of these thoughts, why does it appear so different from what I perceive as material, this cell phone here? If I define material simply as this perception of the material, like the perception of the cell phone, then material boils down to mental. Because my sensations, perceptions that I call material, they are sensations and perceptions in my mind, in my consciousness. This is the main motivation for idealism. Think of George Berkeley, esse est percipi. To exist is to be perceived. We cannot conceive of any reality beyond our perceptions. We cannot conceive of what physical is beyond our representations of physical. And this easily leads to solipsism. The only thing we can be certain of is our own mind. And I don't want to go into that direction of solipsism. I believe that you there can verify that external world exists. You can comment on this video, for example, or talk with me and testify that you exist. Meow. The cat exists. She signaled to me that she exists. So, assuming an external world beyond these perceptions, that there is something that exists, something that produces that cat sensation, what is it? What is it that produces the cat sensation? What is the external world beyond my consciousness that we might call the transcendent? Transcendent because it's beyond my consciousness. It transcends the boundaries of my consciousness. So in this sense, you are a transcendent object to me, outside my consciousness. So what is the transcendent reality? Physicalists or materialists call it material, physical. And I think there is no problem in agreeing with them that whatever is out there, it is material. What is material? What is it that we call material or physical? The only thing that I know in itself is myself, my own consciousness, through being it. It is this. So from my own case I can infer that all material must be continuous with this, whatever it is. So why the mind-brain dichotomy? Why the dual aspects? Why does mind appear so different from matter? On this approach, what we call matter is what we perceive. It is that something that affects our senses and that we perceive in this way. I could call my body material because it affects my senses in this way. It is extended in space and in time, satisfies the criteria of material. And what do we call then mental? It is these experiences here, this existence. I see no difference between these anymore because, well, yes, I mean I see no distinction because material, as far as we know it, is these sense perceptions, how we represent material. So it's mental. The cat has lots to say now. So everything we know of material is our representations of it. And representations are what we typically call mental. So material in this sense boils down to mental. But as I said, if we don't want to go into that solipsistic or idealistic route of Berkeley and say that material is only how we perceive and consciously model it or represent it, if we want to agree that matter is something more, it is that something, that hidden cause of our perceptions, then I would say that the difference between material and mental boils down to what is part of my consciousness here, in contrast to what is distinct from it, everything that is not my consciousness. So it boils down to the difference between me and you, between me and the cat. Now I know why she is meowing so much. The sun is shining and I usually play with her. I take a CD and reflect the sun on the floor so that she can chase it. Soon, my cat, soon. Be patient. Then again, I know that you are conscious. I know that the cat is conscious. Otherwise it wouldn't meow. It wants to play with the sun that I reflect on the floor. That is why she is meowing. And if you comment something on this video, for example, I know in this everyday trivial sense of knowing, I know that your thoughts produced the words. It is what you think. So I infer through empathy or theory of mind that something out there is actually mental, just like my own mentality. And I don't know so much about chairs and other inanimate objects, rocks and atoms, about their intrinsic nature, what they are in themselves, beyond our representations of them. But based on science, I can infer that they are in the same general category as this consciousness here, and we call it material. It's all made of atoms. But what are atoms in themselves, beyond our perceptions of them? It must be something continuous with consciousness, given that everything is material. So this dichotomy, or like discrepancy between mind and matter, I said it is the difference between my representations of reality, or my own consciousness, and reality in itself. I say that something out there that produces my perceptions, that is physical, and it is distinct from my perceptions of it, which are mental. So the difference between mental and material boils down to the thing in itself, material, versus the thing for me, mental. But then again, I can infer that things in themselves are of the same general kind as my consciousness. Based on science, I can infer that. From science, we know that this consciousness, when it is perceived from the outside, it is a neural process. And neural processes are physical processes just like any other. So maybe this is a good example to take my experience in itself, this, which I might call mental. And then you have the scientific representation of it as neural activation. If I would go to a scientific study as a participant, go into the fMRI tube, and they would see the neural correlate of my experience. And they would say, that is physical. I could see the neural correlate, like the fMRI images and scientific models, and I would say, that is a standard, quite ordinary physical process. But I myself, in the tube, when I experience, for example, redness or sadness or anything like that, I would call it experiential or mental consciousness. So the difference between mind and matter boils down to distinctness between a thing in itself and the thing perceived or represented. In either case, it is only mental that we know for sure exists. I have been trying to formulate these ideas in terms of Russellian monism, which also makes the Kantian claim that we don't know what matter is in itself, and it also claims that matter in itself is mental. But in doing so, it relies on these metaphysical distinctions between intrinsic and extrinsic properties and all this heavy analytical philosophy, and it often ends up in property dualism between mental or intrinsic properties and physical or extrinsic properties. So it revives this kind of dualism that I don't think is compatible with the scientific monistic worldview. So instead of that, we have Schopenhauer's Metaphysics, recently described from a more modern perspective, from a consciousness research perspective by Bernardo Kastrup, a controversial philosopher. But I was just reading his synopsis of the book, and I think that captures quite well these ideas that I have myself been entertaining. So maybe this is a Schopenhauerian view of the distinction between mind and matter. And it's like genuinely monistic, not property dualistic like Russellian monism is. So I should read that book. Yeah, but these were my today's reflectations. Thank you.